1, 2, 3, hit, man.
Brad Redford, Nick Given, Greg Wichard, and Andy Mack are here. Be Different podcast, Kicking It Old School with Andy Mack, and we're talking Team 97. Practice has begun at the Cintas Center. Travis Steele in his first year. We're about 30 days away from an official game, Andy. We're going to talk some Xavier hoops, but first and foremost, Andy, how are you? We have not seen you in the Be Different podcast studio in well over a month, I would say, and people have been asking, where is Andy Mack?
Brad, I'm glad that you show a realistic and true interest in my well-being, because that's the way you are. You're a humanitarian.
I am.
I'm doing well. We were out in Seattle for 3 weeks. We have a new granddaughter, and the wife and I were out there doing the stuff in the background to make the birth possible. And things worked out well.
I wasn't sure exactly where you were going with that.
I don't think that came out quite right.
But did the baby?
The baby came out well. Little Lulu is doing well. Mother's doing well. My son Brian is doing well. And we managed a couple rounds of golf. We went to a Seattle Sounders MLS game. The future of sports in this country is Major League Soccer and NCAA basketball. Football, we don't know it yet publicly, but is on the decline.
The decline.
NFL football on the decline.
Even though ratings are up right now.
That's irrelevant.
Completely irrelevant.
If you have a long view, NFL football in deep trouble. The concussion injury deal is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and the NFL is in deep trouble, especially with that guy who's the commissioner. I mean, the best thing he's ever done is negotiate his own contract. How do you pay that guy that empty suit $45 million? But that's another topic. We're here to talk about Team 97. You and I made the effort to watch an entire practice. Actually, I watched the whole practice. You left early for some social reason.
Well, the practice started at 3 o'clock. I had to be somewhere by about 4:45, so I had to take off about 4:15. But I did get a good amount of practice watching in. Got to see Team 97 live. And there should have been a bunch of fans, I believe, on the Saturday before we got there, too. A little live-in look at the Xavier basketball team. A little public practice as well. But, Andy, what were your thoughts when you were able to watch the whole practice this past week?
It was a tight 2 hours. Travis Steele is definitely in command. He really thrives in that teaching, coaching, practice atmosphere. They ran a really crisp practice. Bodies were flying. They put the rebound bubble up twice, which I know that would be, for you as a player, that would be anathema. That would be the end of the world if they put the bubble up once, let alone 2 drills with the bubble up and no ability to make a shot. I mean, there's no way the ball's going to go in the hole. The idea is to trigger contact and rebounding. And maybe the number one, two impressions. They both involve Paul Scruggs. Zach Hankins, the Division II Player of the Year, the transfer from Ferris State, the grad transfer, he wears a headband. He was also wearing the gold jersey, which is a great sign. That means he was the best practice player in week 1, and you really got to earn that. And Scruggs is wearing a headband, and that kid is so physical. I mean, he's big. He rebounds like a small forward at the 2 guard, and people don't want to be around him. He has those long arms. He flails those elbows. I mean, he clears space. So Scruggs made a great impression. He was very verbal too, very vocal. He's healthy. He had the knee problem at his senior year at the prep school out in the wine country in California. He's totally ready to go, and he's going to have a great year, man. Talk about guards making the biggest improvement between freshman and sophomore year. Scruggs is a case study in that. So Scruggs is looking good. I'd be interested in your impressions of Zach Hankins because I think this guy is a terrific player.
Well, I think the first thing when you take a look at Zach Hankins is he is tatted up on his left side. I mean, a huge, tall, white guy, tatted up. He's got cornrows. He wears a headband. I mean, and the guy is nuts. He's insane, and I love that. And he gives a lot of toughness to Xavier basketball. But also his ability to get off the floor, very quick, very long. He is all of 6'10". I mean, you're going to be very impressed with Zach Hankins. And I think, Andy, there is a surefire top 5 players when you take a look at Quentin, Scruggs, who you just mentioned, Hankins, Najee, and Tyreek Jones. Those are going to be your top 5 players. And then after that, it's going to be interesting from a depth perspective where Travis Steele goes.
I think the grad transfer from Columbia, Kyle Castlin, who is a vegetarian, he's also vocal, he's a leader, he's a very smart individual. He's an Ivy League graduate from Columbia University in the New York City area. I think Castlin right now is competing for a starting job. I mean, I really don't care who starts. It's who finishes, who plays the most minutes, what combinations result in the best plus minus, the best performance, the best point differential on the floor. But Castlin he's a captain. He's moved right in quickly, and he seems to be like a Malcolm Bernard. He's not as long, but he's very useful. He does a lot of little things really, really well.
Yeah, and that seems to be what Xavier has done in that grad transfer market is get a player that's pretty versatile, not necessarily great in one area, but does a little bit of everything. Kyle Castlin seems to be that glue guy, and he's a team captain, which was voted on by all of the players. And so for him to get that captain spot in just a few months of being around the guys, pretty impressive. So I would expect Kyle to possibly be in that starting position at the 4, but he should be in that rotation 6 or 7. The other guy I think you have to take a look at outside of those guys will be Ryan Wellage and his ability to spread teams out defensively with the way that he shoots from the three-point line.
You know, Wellage so far looks like he's competing, but he's not that comfortable. And he sort of substantiates that old axiom that I bring up every year, every episode. Great shooting makes up for a litany of other sins. He may not be a great defender. I think he's in terrific physical shape. He's very thin and willowy, wispy, if you will, something you can't identify with your physical conditioning and the size of your musculature.
Yeah, and it's only, I mean, day by day I am growing all muscles across my whole physique.
But Wellage is from Greensburg, Indiana. He spent 4 years at San Jose State. He averaged 18 points a game for a terrible team, granted, but in a pretty decent league, playing a good schedule. He shoots the hell out of the ball, 45% last year from 3. He's a great free throw shooter. I don't think he's going to shoot a whole lot of free throws, though, because his game is not necessarily putting the ball on the floor. It's the step-in rhythm 3, and I think he's very capable. Here's a guy in a team that, you know, if you look at them practice, you think maybe outside shooting is going to be a drop-off. I mean, there's no Trayvon Blewett. There's no J.P. McCura, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, it's not points scored, it's points differential that win ball games.
And this team is not going to be offensively what Xavier has been the last couple of years. They don't necessarily have to be a great three-point shooting team, but Wellage in spots, it will have to do a good job and continue to shoot those percentages around the mid-40s just so teams have to account for Wellage and someone on the perimeter to open up lanes for guys like Quentin Gooden, guys like Najee Marshall, guys like Paul Scruggs. Hopefully Wellage can do enough on the defensive end to stay out there for, 15, 18, 20 minutes a game, which I think is all they're going to need out of Wellage. And then depending on who they're playing, I think Castlin gets to start. I think sometimes Wellage gets to start. We talked a little bit during practice and also this morning about the possibility of Hankins and Tyreek Jones playing together, but I feel like you see that only maybe being 6 to 8 minutes a game if possible.
Yeah, I think that, and you mentioned that both Tyreek Jones and Zach Hankins are in the top 5 in terms of ability. You got the core 4 guys back from last year, the 2 juniors, Tyreek Jones and Quentin Gooden, who I think has a chance to be the best point guard in the Big East. And then you have the 2 sophomores in Scruggs and Najee Marshall. I call those guys the core four. And I don't think there's a better core group of experienced players coming back in the Big East. You got to add to that, obviously. And I think the first man out of the box in terms of ability and impact potential is Zach Hankins. But if Hankins and Jones are in your top five, it's sort of like a waste of ability if you just split the 40 minutes at the five between the two. And Travis has gotten Tyreek to buy into the slim down mode. He's maybe under 240 now, still 6'8", 6'8.5", whatever he is, still physical as hell. But now he should have the endurance physically to spend more time on the floor. And I think Steele's charge is to keep both those guys out there for 6 or 8 minutes together in certain situations. But he's got two really aggressive shot blocking, dynamic players. So, especially in the Big East, the specter of foul trouble arises. He only has two real bigs. And when they practice, they break up into position groups. You got two guys going down with Coach Jonas Hayes. You've got Zach Hankins and Tyreek, and then you got 10 other guys with the rest of the coaches, the wings and the ball handlers. So there's a little, there's not the luxury of a 3-man rotation at the big or a 4-man rotation that Xavier has had the last few years. You got quality down there, but you don't have quantity, and you want to get that quality on the floor more than 40 minutes between them.
Yeah, well, and Tyreek and Zach Hankins are both very imposing figures. They're guys, when they step out on the court, you definitely take notice, and they're getting a ton of reps in practice right now, considering that they are the only bigs on the roster at all. But if you could steal 4 or 5 minutes a game with the two of those guys in, I think that will be extremely important. Obviously, keeping everybody healthy. But you love the 1 through 3, what you have with Quentin Scruggs, Najee. I'd say your best two players from a ceiling perspective will be Hankins, Tyreek. Then after that, we talked about Castlin and Wellage. But who are those guys that are going to step up and be the 8th guy and the 9th guy on that depth chart that are going to give you that 12 to 15 minutes a game, step in a big moment and be able to hit a big shot or get a big defensive stop? And that's when we start to look at Elias Harden, Dontarius James, Keontae Kennedy. Which of those guys do you think will be able to step up moving forward into the season?
Well, that's a huge question mark in all three cases. Dontarius James is maybe the most important of that group because he could and maybe will have to play some minutes at the 4-5. And physically, he's not like a pudgy freshman big guy that we've seen come in. A guy who needed maybe to redshirt, to spend the whole year developing his body so he could bang and hold up at the Big East level. This guy physically is very strong. He also can pull out and shoot it. And he played at a really competitive prep school at Huntington Prep. They played a national schedule. And Travis is working hard with him to get him to buy into he's going to have to learn multiple positions as a freshman. And I think he's an interesting case where they really need him to be somewhat viable to come in when foul trouble and other stuff results with Tyreek and with Hankins. At least I think he is. The other two are, Keontae Kennedy. Physically, he's pretty imposing. He's had a little knee problem that's held him back, but he did a full practice Tuesday when we watched. At least I saw the whole thing. I know you had an important social engagement. Where were you at Mad Tree? Did you go directly from?
Well, they got a new beer over there, so I knew it was launching around 5 o'clock. So I just wanted to make sure that I was one of the first people in line to
was it
grab
good beer?
that drink.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, I from what I can recall, yeah, it was very good.
It seemed pretty good.
Yeah,
That's good.
But I had Xavier practice Team 97 running through my mind
The whole time, I'm sure.
the whole time, and I will say I've actively been thinking about it.
That's good.
So yeah, let's go back to the depth chart.
I'm not
Sorry.
trying to diss you.
Mad Tree's got a great depth chart when it comes to beers. But sorry, Andy, go ahead. Depth chart, Xavier.
Elias Harden is looking better. He's still pretty thin. He can shoot it, and he runs the floor well. But he's going to have to to be more consistent, probably in practice to earn his minutes. Keontae Kennedy is sort of in the same boat. So, I mean, it usually boils down to an 8-man rotation.
Yeah.
And that's just, every year we go, well, back in the Skip Prosser days, is he going to play? He wants to play 2 units like the NBA. It never happened.
Mm-hmm.
It never happened because there's a drop-off in talent when you get past the first 6 or 7. But those who are writing Xavier's epitaph and expecting a total scramble and sub-500 season and all sorts of other chaotic results, Andy Mack, this is Andy Mack speaking, but
Thank you.
I think this
It is
team,
Andy Mack speaking. If you couldn't tell.
This isn't a lookalike.
Yeah.
It's a real guy.
This team is going to be sneaky good. I mean, they could go 9-4, 8-5 in the non-conference, which is that's sort of where the MAC teams were until the last couple of years when they put up 12-0 and but this team is going to be a work in progress, and Travis Steele has their attention. I liked what he did. Xavier, as a school, is on fall break, and he practiced him Tuesday at 3, brought him back at 6 a.m. on Wednesday morning, and then gave them the rest of the week off, like a normal college student. I think that's good. You would have liked that.
No, I would have. Any time that I was given time off, I was pretty relatively happy with having some time off from having to be at practice. So
for you, a chance to go back to Frankenmuth and pick up some extra hours at the Christmas store and have a big German dinner.
Yeah, which is very important to me and my family, that I do have time to go back and do that on a yearly basis. But Andy, that's kind of Team 97 in a nutshell, I would say right now. But what about the rest of the Big East? And I think that's something we have to discuss a little bit, just because the Big East should not be nearly as strong as it has been in previous years. There's a lot of lost talent when you take a look at Villanova, Seton Hall, Creighton, 3 of one of those more top-tier Big East teams. So when you look around the Big East, what are some of the headlines that are on your mind?
Well, the St. John's Red Men was back in the before the Me Too movement, et cetera, back in well before that. Why did I even get into that? Forget it.
I don't think we want to touch that, but we'll try to stay off
when
that.
Lou Carnesecca coached, they were the Red Men, and they had the players they had. Chris Mullen was a player back then. That was 30 years. What am I talking about? That's ancient history. Actually, it was interesting. Travis Steele brought his players into the huddle before practice, and he used a quote from Lou Holtz. And which was a pretty
first
good
of all,
quote.
no one on the team even knew who Lou Holtz was.
Then
which
he asked
is
the
sad.
said, "Wait a minute, do any of you guys, players, managers, coaches, do you know who Lou Holtz is?" Nobody raised their hand. I mean, we're dealing with a different generation. Nobody knew who
sad.
Lou Holtz was.
Oh, isn't that sad?
Anyway.
Who's Lou Holtz?
You guys don't know who Lou Holtz is.
Oh, Lou Holtz.
And you're relatively alert.
Greg loves Lou Holtz.
Everything
I
about
wish
him.
I could do his voice. I would do it, but I can't. He sounds like Daffy Duck.
Lou Holtz would pace 32 miles during a Notre Dame game. I mean, he was constantly on the move. That's why he is almost anorexic.
He's a mover and shaker.
He just move. The only guy who walks maybe as much as him as a football coach is Pete Carroll of the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, but that's,
So what would you say
Andy,
that any of this has to do with the rest of the Big East?
We're going to go back to the Big East. And Andy, there's one thing I need to discuss with you, because when we're talking off the air, you're telling me that Villanova, that you're not expecting them to win the Big East this year. You're expecting another team in the conference to win. Can we discuss this?
well, I think Villanova has the potential to win.
But you don't think they will?
They lost their top 4 scorers. They all went to the NBA. They're all done. They have 2 veterans back, 2 fifth-year guys, and Eric Pascal and Booth.
Mm-hmm.
They're very good, but they've never been the main men in
Never.
the rotation. And when they haven't won 2 of the last 3 national championships, we might know the Villanova
good.
Wildcats from the Big East, but they did it with Ryan Arcidiacono and Jalen. When Brunson was a freshman, Arcidiacono was a senior. And Brunson was very good, but he wasn't the main guy. So they're going to go with a freshman point guard and that guy that decided not to go to Arizona. I can't think of his name.
I think it's Javon Quinterly, I believe is how you say his name.
he's going to be the starting point guard. He's going to move right past Gillespie, who's going to be a good spare part, but he's not going to start.
No, and you'll have Cole Swider.
Cole
and
Swider,
another impact freshman, 5-star.
Who Villanova negatively recruited. Xavier was right there on the precipice, and then the word got out that Mack was going to Louisville, so the Swider decided to go to Villanova.
And they have the best dressed coach in the Big East and arguably all of college basketball, Jay Wright.
GQJ.
As far as I'm aware, he's pretty good when it comes to X's and O's as well. But, Andy, you still do not think that Villanova is going to win the Big East.
I don't think it's a lock. I think I think they'll win 12.
What would you like to bet on that, Andy?
I really don't. I'm not a wagerer. I'm against legal and illegal gambling, so I'm not going to bet anything because I have no basis for. I'm not dissing Villanova. They're going to win 12 games. I think somebody in the league is going to win at 13-5.
And who do you think it's going to be?
I would put my money at the moment on the Providence Friars.
There it is. I've been waiting for that. I was waiting for Providence to come out of your mouth, Andy.
PC Friars are loaded. They lost 3 good players, but a 4-man freshman class that's probably the best in the Big East, maybe better than Villanova. Emmett Holt, the undersized big who's a glue guy, looks like he is going to come back. He missed all of last year with the stomach surgery. He was, near death, this guy. They couldn't figure it out. He made their Italy trip, and he played. He's in practice. Emmett Holt will add some stability, some defense, some grit to their low post game. They have those 2 other guys that are big, but they don't play any defense. So there's going to be depth there. They have 2 really great guards. One of them is named David Duke. I'm not going to get into the racial implications of that, but this guy, David Duke.
I'm not aware.
He's really a good guard, David Duke. and the best player in the Big East, my preseason MVP, is Alpha Diallo. A guy that you didn't like last year.
It's not that I don't like him. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about him going into last year at all. But now we know about Alpha Diallo. Well, and as a freshman, he only averaged like 5 points a game or whatever it was. I didn't even recognize the player that he was last year. Averaged like 13 a game, 6 rebounds. He's a stud. He's arguably the best NBA prospect coming out of the Big East.
And to tie it all together, you've got Ed Cooley. Cooley's a great coach. He hasn't won at the NCAA level consistently, but they've made 5 straight NCAA picks. They have a deep roster. He's going to play those good freshmen, and there's going to be a lot of competition, a lot of depth. I think PC is going to be very good.
I like Marquette as well. I like Marcus Howard. Obviously, a guy that scored over 20 points per game last year. You have Sam Hauser, and then you bring in Sam Hauser's brother, Joey, who's a top 50 prospect. Expect Marquette to have a really nice year as well.
Yeah, they're going to be good. Of course, Andrew Rousey is gone, but they'll maybe have a little more size and play a little more defense.
They didn't play. They haven't played much defense at all
at the guard line. And
Wojo needs to have those guys slap the floor a little bit more, and then I think they would be a little bit tighter on the defensive end.
And they have a new building. I thought the old building, the Bradley Center, was pretty darn good. I mean, it was older, but it was a beautiful building. The Bucks played there and sold it out, and Marquette played there. But they've got a brand new building, and they've got 3 buildings lined up next to each other. The old Mecca, which was there when Al McGuire was there. They got the Bradley Center, and they got the new place. Boom, boom, boom. What do you need 3 buildings for?
Oh, I don't know. But my favorite player in the Big East, he's back after a torn ACL. Martine Crumple of Creighton. He's back, Andy. How scared are you of Martine Crumple and the young Creighton Blue Jays?
Crumple, he played well last year. He came out of the weeds and averaged 11 or 12 points and 6 or 7 rebounds. Then he blew out. Then he's sort of like a light cavalry big guy, though. He did not want to play inside against Sean O'Mara or Tyreek Jones. Did not like the heavy going, and I think that's a problem. I really do. So, I mean, Creighton will be hard to beat in Omaha, as they always are, but they need some input. The point guard situation is sort of by committee. That was a problem last year, and we'll see. I mean, they're going to be, let it fly. That's the McDermott approach. They're going to play wide open, shoot a lot of threes. They did lose Kyrie Thomas. He went early to the NBA. That was a bit of a, he's a great player. And the other guy, Marcus Foster.
Yep.
So it's hard to replace those guys. You're talking like 35, 38 points a game among those two. Of course, Xavier did lose Blewett and JP, and that's maybe more than 38 points between those two.
And Sean O'Mara and Kaiser Gates. All right, but the schedule is closely approaching. Andy, November 1st, Kentucky Wesleyan will be coming into the Cintas Center. That will be an exhibition game. November 6th, IUPUI. So we'll start off the season there with a handful of home games, and then we have a little countdown going as well, as we know what game is on the horizon, Andy.
We were debating this. It's a new segment we're going to use until the Crosstown Shootout. It's called, very cleverly, Countdown to the Shootout. And we've calculated it's 63 days.
Very clever.
63 days until the Crosstown Shootout, which will be played at the refurbished, resold shoe in Clifton. They put a new sole on that thing. They made it into a boot. And they've increased the capacity, I think. It's supposed to look great. And so Xavier will play UC over there on December 6th. It's a Saturday. And they still don't even put the game on ESPN. It's on ESPN2.
It's going to be not that fun of a game.
It's going to be a great game. Why would it not be a fun game?
Why wouldn't it be a fun game? It's a fun game.
Both teams are going to be vanilla pudding this year, and they're not going to be that good. I wouldn't put it on national TV. It's big because you live in Cincy and you wear that.
No, it is one of the best rivalries in all of college
ESPN just
basketball.
rated it the number 2 rivalry.
Number three.
Number
Yeah,
three.
it's
I
no matter.
agree that the rivalry's great. I just don't think that either team is that great.
North Carolina Duke is rated number 1. Everybody, it's like the Yankees and the Red Sox. I get so sick of that Yankees Red Sox stuff.
You get sick
And
of
the
Duke
number
versus
two
North Carolina?
Number 2 rivalry is UK and Louisville, supposedly.
Agreed.
That won't be too competitive this year, probably.
Probably not. Wait,
unfortunately for the Cardinals.
do you think you're saying you get tired of Duke, North Carolina? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
yeah, I do. I really do. I get because it's obsessively hyped. I mean, I think it's a great game
For reasons that make sense.
Dickie V lives at Cameron Indoor Stadium. He has a little suite there. He and Coach K
Fair.
do whatever they do.
He loves Kentucky too. It's annoying.
He loves Kentucky
Loves
also,
them.
which that's definitely a black mark. But Dickie V is he's a Hall of Famer. What can I say? But 63 days. A lot of my UC friends have come up to me with condolences. Xavier's it's going to be a rough year. They're decimated. They've lost Coach Mack. They've lost all that scoring, and it's going to be a tough night over there at the shoe. I think Jacob Evans is in the NBA, and the 2 big guys. The North Carolina guy, Washington, he's gone. North Carolina State guy, he's gone.
Clark's gone.
Clark's gone. Their 2 point guards are
Larry Davis is gone.
There's the hidden factor. Larry Davis,
Big.
the number 1 assistant,
Big.
Nick's long time. It's like Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, and Larry Davis was like his sidekick. He was like an invaluable sounding board for Mick. He was the head coach when Mick had the head problems there one year.
Yeah.
And of course, Xavier did beat him that year in the D. Davis game, but we won't bring that up because I don't want to irritate UC fans. But Xavier's had some success over in Clifton, whereas UC has had virtually none at the Cintas Center. I don't know if that has any bearing on this year's game. I think this game is a total crapshoot. It's a total who knows. Both teams are very, very different, and we'll see what results. And another Villanova deal, back to Villanova, another reason where they're going to be, there's a question mark, is that Jay Wright has lost his top assistant, Ashley Howard, who had a brief stop in Cincinnati. He coached for Xavier briefly, and then he went right back to Philadelphia because he's addicted to cheesesteaks.
Yeah,
he's a Philadelphia guy.
He's a
now
great
the head
coach
at LaSalle.
He's a great guy. He's a great coach. In many ways, though, I think Jay Wright is his own man. I don't know how much effect that will have on this Villanova team.
I'm grasping at straws, Brad.
Yeah,
Ashley
I know.
Howard's departure has to be accounted for.
Well, I
and
think
they did lose, the big Ragu and Brunson and
we had 4 players in the top 33.
4 guys went to the
of the
Bridges and the freshman who probably should have stayed another year.
Omar Spellman.
Yeah.
Smellman.
Yeah.
Spell me.
Omar the Tent Maker Spellman.
All right. Well, hey, Team 97, it's approaching, Andy, and we're going to continue to have you on to break it all down, to give that strong Xavier Big East perspective that is needed. And I think there are some very interesting parts to Team 97. Depth, obviously, an issue. Perimeter shooting, a little bit of an issue. But this team, for me, if I had one thing that they need to do in order to win big games, defensively, their ball pressure has to be much better than what it has been in previous years. And I know Xavier loves that pack line, which allows for a lot of open three-point shots. That cannot happen this year. Quentin Gooden, Najee, and Scruggs, especially on the perimeter, they have to be able to heat up ball handlers, make other teams feel uncomfortable. I think that's one thing that Coach Steele did stress a lot in practice that I noticed is that ball pressure has to be there, and it has to be better than what it has been in previous years. We've given up way too many wide-open three-point shots over the last couple of years, and if this team allows for those open three-point shots and teams to come into Cintas and shoot 25 threes, they're going to be in some serious, serious trouble. And I think they do have the capability on the perimeter to do that, but that would be my number one thing for this Xavier team moving into this year.
You know, during a practice, I sat with you for about 90 minutes, and you were doing a lot of socializing and embracing people, which is great because you're a legend over there at the Cintas Center. But you were watching, and closeouts on three-point shooters a huge priority.
It has to be.
Travis Steele is going. You got to guard with your hands when you close out. You can't just run out there and stomp your feet. You've got to throw the hands up, and Xavier has the players to do that. And Scruggs and Najee Marshall and Quentin Gooden, all those guys are very good in getting out there fast and aggressively. I think that's extremely important. And Steele kept underlining the priorities in the pack line, which are their objective is to give up tough twos, shots inside the arc, off the dribble, and their number one taboos defensively are to give up rhythm threes where you can catch and step into the shot, and also to give up easy post touches and scores like that, and layups. And you keep, the defense, the pack line is still the basic formula. They still have that 18-foot dotted line out there in practice, and they still have the low block with a tape out there. But I think the focus has changed to being more aggressive, more in the passing lanes, very aggressive closeouts, and that's going to be a high priority.
All right, well, we will continue to document Xavier basketball all the way throughout the season. Andy, we really appreciate you taking the time to come back in, and we know you were in Seattle for a little bit over a month, but to have you back here, to be in front of Team 97 like you have been over the last week, we will continue to stay with you here throughout the course of the season.
Brad, I'm enthusiastic. I think Travis has had a great he's been head coach for 6 months, and he's kept his priorities certainly in line. Team 97, his first priority, did a great job with the grad transfers. He put a terrific staff together, kept a lot of the parts, got those two really good head coaches in waiting as assistants, and then added Dante Jackson, your friend. And obviously the recruiting focus has been excellent also. And Travis has done all this, and he hasn't been overwhelmed. He's still Travis Steele. He still talks with you. He's really thriving on this. A lot of head coaches, their first time in the number one shirt, they get overwhelmed by all the residual sort of orbiting things going around. Travis, he can handle it, man. I mean, I'm not saying that this team is going to roar into the NCAA tournament and do tremendous damage, but they're going to be really competitive. They're going to be well coached, and I think the talent is there. And if it fits together right, they're going to have a hell of a year.
All right, Andy, I'm with you on that, and I think we'll have you back next week as well. We will be posting this
next week.
It's possible. It depends on
okay.
It depends on if you answer your phone or not, because apparently your phone does not allow for text messaging, which I'm not really sure how all that works, Andy.
I'm working on technology. I do like our set, though, in that we have this little plant here. I'm going to water it just briefly. Put a little water on it.
I'm not sure if it's a real plant.
And I really like this. I don't know what this drink is, but this is blueberry, and it tastes like blueberry.
It's called 30 Drink.
Most of this stuff, when you drink it, it has an aftertaste. It's sort of metal.
Yeah.
This actually tastes like blueberries, and I'm a blueberry expert. I love these things. And I love cranberries also. I think if they would have a Brussels sprout flavor, I would have my refrigerator stocked with this stuff. I don't know what it is, but it's good.
At 30 Drink. Follow it on Twitter and Instagram.
How about my personalized cup here? Andy, Mac, Xavier.
Andy, your reviews are
My wife, Janet.
very
came up
good.
with
They're
this.
very, very, very good. And Team 97 review is good. Your 30 Drink review is good. Andy, as we move to the season, we'll keep it moving with you, bud. Thanks for coming in.
You're going to ask me back?
Yeah, we'll have you back.
Oh, thanks, Brad.
And that is Kicking It Old School with Andy
I
Mack.
need to be wanted.